It's very common for people, especially women, to combat an inner voice that's constantly speaking negatively to you. Things like, what's wrong with you? Why couldn't you make it to the gym today? Are you making as much money as your friends?
We all like to give advice to our friends. When they're feeling down or directionless, we love to boost them up and tell them how awesome they are, how they inspire us on the reg. But how often are we doing that for ourselves? In this video, we're going to be covering the 5 things you need to stop telling yourself in order to quell that negative self-talk. How do you put your negative thoughts to rest? Tell us in the comments.
All of us have some version of that voice inside. While it's really good to have an inner dialogue, some of the things we tell ourselves are downright destructive.
Here are 5 things you need to stop telling yourself in order to defeat that inner critic. Starting with, I can't do that.
This is a pretty common one. And I think this is something, especially as women and as little girls, you start hearing from a very young age, you can't do that, or that's not for girls maybe. So I think it gets put in there pretty early.
Yeah, and it's wild to me that I can't think of the last time I used this in front of people, but the second I'm by myself, it's, I can't do this, I don't know. Yeah. And so that could be really just internally destructive.
Yeah.
So something you can say instead is, how can this be done? How can I get this done?
Yeah. I don't deserve that.
I think this might be another one of those kind of conditioned responses. Sometimes it's a simple pat on the back, other times it's a full-blown promotion. When you feel like you don't deserve something, it can hound you.
Yeah, and I think it especially gets in your way if you're thinking of possibly asking for a promotion that you likely deserve. You may be like drawing it up and go like, oh, do I deserve this though? It really is constantly going in your head.
It's a form of self-rejection that you can't get to that next step if you've already cut yourself off at the pass.
Yeah. I think a good solution for this one is, instead of saying I can't do that, it's really requalifying it and saying this is how I've earned this opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I think once you do that, you'll go, the bullet points will start piling up and you'll be like, oh, of course I did.
It's a nice confidence builder to put out a list of things you're like, oh, I really earned this. I'm not enough.
I think this one happens a lot when you're maybe more sort of panicked or up against a challenge, where you, instead of kind of forging forward, might be like, throw your hands up and be like, oh, I can't do this, or I'm not enough.
Mm-hmm. It can feel like a chronic thing, right? Where if that thought is in the back of your mind constantly, the pity that it feels, very much is you're victimizing yourself in the situation, and that can be really hard to overcome.
Yeah. I think that just kind of immediately takes you out of the game too. You're just like, I'm not enough. Nothing I could do.
Right.
Too bad.
So I think something you can say instead of that is really just thinking about how your unique attributes, the things that you bring to the table, are more than enough, and that you should really be able to utilize them in some unique ways.
There's no point in trying.
I think this one is really common when you're also feeling these feelings of kind of jealousy or defeat or pity. And often that comes from kind of the comparison trap. Mm-hmm. I recommend looking at that article we wrote about it, because it can be really easy to start to compare yourself to other people and then self-reject and say, well, I'm not going to do it. There's no point. Like,
just look at the person kind of next to you or down the block and be like, there's really no point. She's already got it. Mm-hmm. But just because someone else is experiencing success doesn't mean there's not room for you too. There is.
It sounds like a good opportunity to get a mentor. Who's that person you're eyeing? Ask them to tell you their secrets.
Yes. So I think instead of kind of throwing your hands up and saying there's no point in trying, I think a more helpful thing to say would be, here's what I can do differently.
Yeah, more proactive for sure. I messed up too much to start over.
So this is what happens when I guess you just mess up really badly. You can always start over. I actually find it pretty empowering when you not when you mess up, but when you could kind of just start everything from scratch rather than kind of like going back 2 steps or going back 3 steps. Sometimes when you mess up so badly, you just got to go completely back to the drawing board, and I think that can be like an inspirational moment. Actually.
Yeah, I think there's something really empowering to be able to say, like, you know what, this one was a loss, let's start fresh over here. maybe get some feedback, taking a step back and saying, looking at it kind of objectively and saying, what did I do wrong? What can be improved?
Yeah.
It's a really nice way to do it.
So I guess a thing you could say is I'm gonna go ahead and accept this mistake and take my steps to recover.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes from, like, maybe there's a little bit of shame in messing up. There's a shame in failure still, and there shouldn't be. You have time to start over anytime.
Also, it's pretty jerky to just walk away from a big problem.
Bye!
So those are the 5 things you should stop telling yourself in order to defeat your inner critic.
If you need an extra boost in confidence, download our free Self-Love at Work guide. That's linked in the description below. How have you overcome your inner critic? Tell us in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, like it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We put out videos weekly.